Hello everybody, my name's Michael and welcome to the first iteration of the Holker vlog. I felt it fitting, being deadline day, to introduce our good friend Tom Austin.
Thank you very much. It's great to finally be at Holker. Been a long time coming. Looking forward to really working closely with businesses across East Lancashire and beyond the Northwest, really talking around IT and how it can really help them and benefit them with the offices.
Really excited, Tom, really excited, looking forward to working with you in the future and helping some new and old sort of clients, really. So what are your expectations of Holker moving forward? What do you expect to bring to the table?
Just something a little bit different, really. I know with IT it's a bit of a busy industry. There are lots of people, lots of different providers, and what I've found so far is a lot of them talk in acronyms, a lot of tech words, a lot of jargon and buzzwords, so just bringing a bit of northernism to it, really, talking English, letting people understand how IT can actually benefit them and save them money ultimately in the long term.
No, really, really good, Tom. I totally understand the point, and people do get lost quite easily when you start talking technical. You know, it's a very easy subject to get lost in, really. So I think having that clear, plain English understanding of how to understand things in more detail certainly goes a long way.
Definitely. I think a lot of the time as well, IT is managed by someone technical, but ultimately when it comes to the end of the day, it ends up on the finances team desk of how much it costs and how much it's costing them. So it needs to fit both the IT team and also the business operationally as well.
Yeah, definitely. So over the next sort of 35-40 minutes, we're going to cover a couple of different things around IT, cybersecurity, maybe a little sneak peek into our November event, what's coming up. Certainly one to keep your eyes on. Could be interesting for a couple of folk out there. So, Tom, we'll start to get to know you a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll kind of, it's deadline day, so we're framing this interview around you. So,
brilliant. No pressure at all.
No, definitely. So, what are you going to be focusing on in the first sort of month of being at Holker?
Understanding what's different about Holker. I think that's the biggest thing for me. Like I said, there are so many different IT providers, and it's understanding where Holker fit differently. One of the biggest things, obviously, it's literally my second week here now, but that first week coming into the team, meeting people on the service desk, in finance, the wider sales and account management team, everybody is so welcoming and everybody is coming over to give you advice on how to help understand what's best about Holker. I spent some time literally on the first week just going around each different department and asking them what made Holker different, and every single department always said it's the people, and you can really get a good feel for that. I've listened to client calls where they've spoke to the account manager and they're singing the praises of people on the service desk just for being genuinely nice and genuinely helpful. So it's just translating what Holker can do and what I understand from the IT perspective and how it helps businesses, and just creating that partnership really to take it further and help them improve.
No, that's really good, Tom. And I think it just shows credence to what you've said there to the wider business. It's not just, you know, one or two people which help any businesses, it's the entire organisation. And it's a testament really to the rest of the team. You know, we're not talking just about the service desk, we're talking about, you know, the accounts team, finance, HR, everybody really, because everybody's involved in the whole process here at Holker. So it's really good to see that you've had that first impression, and you know, it's been a good one. So really good. So what's one of the, we'll go more into some direct questions. What do you think businesses overlook when it comes to IT?
How important it is. I think it goes under the radar that every business is running on IT, and when IT goes down, it has a massive impact across a business. Whether it's in a logistics firm, printer goes down, truck's now stuck in the yard, it can't get out there. Whether it's an accountancy firm, Sage goes down in January, they now can't do a tax return. Right the way through, every business relies on it. So it's really digging into how important it is, and also showing them that I've seen quotes from different providers and you read it and it's 4 or 7 different pages of just absolute drivel, and it's like they all mean the same thing, they're just trying to make it sound grander than it is. Just keep it simple, save money, but understand how important it is to make sure that your business is operational, because if it isn't, you're just going to bleed money. Certainly are.
And then to lighten things up a little bit, spice it up, Tom, what's your favourite technical toy, should we say?
Technical toy? That's a great question. That's a cracker of a question. My little lad is absolutely obsessed with YouTube, and he likes making these vlogs that we do. And it's, I can't even remember, I think it's called a gamble or something like that.
Right.
So you hold it and you put your phone in, but it keeps it steady, but it tracks whoever you've got it pointing at. So like say if he was walking across the screen, it turns and follows you. I'd say that's probably one of my favourite gadgets at the minute.
That is pretty cool.
Saves me a bit of time as well, having to run around after a 9-year-old.
Yeah, well, I tend to agree with you there, Tom. It's trying to do videos and run around after kids never ends well.
No.
Pretty much all mine on my camera roll are very much shaky.
Yeah.
You can't really tell what's going on.
No.
So yeah, as I say, that's an introduction to Tom, everybody. So really glad to have him here. And again, deadline day today, so it was very much fitting to get him in the news update. Speaking of updates, so September is Vulnerability Management Month, perfect reminder for businesses to identify and monitor sort of weaknesses in their internal infrastructure. You know, there's tons of stuff out there at the moment which can help do that. We as a business can also help you with that sort of process. You can get lost, as Tom said earlier, in all of the jargon, but we try and break it down so it's a little bit more understandable for you. Easy to understand, easy to read, and easy to sort of mitigate against, really.
Yeah.
Secondly, some great cyber resilience events coming up in London, Bristol, focusing on practical workshops. So over the next sort of 2 weeks, they're going out into town centres, really, educating people around cybersecurity, cyber awareness, what people should be looking out for, and ultimately how to prevent cybercrime.
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest topics I've come across over the past sort of 12 months. Cybersecurity, I'm sure everybody's seen or heard of some form of cyber attack, right?
Yeah, M&S obviously the big one.
Yeah, M&S, North Face, Pandora, just to name a few. You know, the list is endless, and they're just the ones we see in the media. So never mind the countless businesses which have been affected from time and time again. Any sort of IT updates, Tom?
Yeah, it's Cloud Week this week for 2025, so there's a big focus on how cloud computing is impacting us day to day. I think the way that cloud has took off, it doesn't really get talked about as much anymore with cyber and AI, but that shift after COVID really, where we all had to learn how to work remotely, stay secure, bringing cloud computing in and what's available to it. There's lots of thought leadership going on this week, lots of different ways about how it can be used for retention as well as staff and employing new staff. And obviously it's never a news update unless AI gets mentioned now. Yes. So the FCA have obviously emphasised responsible use of AI, which I think is again massively underutilised. I got a end of year school report from your lad a couple of months ago now, and what the head teacher wrote was literally, you could tell it was written in ChatGPT or Copilot, which is fine, you know, we're all doing it now. But again, it's like, do I really want inputting details of my kid into AI without my permission? So again, the FCA are trying to be really proactive on that, and I think that's something that government are looking at as well, where we need to be really responsible of what we're using AI and what information we're giving it. So again, it'll always probably in the news every week along with cyber at the minute. It's taking off and everybody keeps talking about it no matter what.
Yeah, definitely. I think with AI, like anything, somebody needs to take a grip of it and actually put some legislation in place
100%
to understand what it can be used for, the dangers of it, because everybody uses ChatGPT, Copilot, amongst other AI solutions, and they are inputting tons of data in there. But do you understand where that data is going or not? So it's good to understand that pathway of where your data is stored. Is it local? Is it in somebody else's cloud? Or is it in an attacker's cloud somewhere else where you don't know what's happening to your data? So it's always a good understanding to see where that is. But AI is huge at the moment, and again, a sneak peek to our event over in November, but that will be being mentioned. So quick cyber tip for the week. So I've been working with a couple of businesses over the past sort of couple of weeks, talking about phishing emails. You know, a lot of them have got so much better over the past sort of 12, 18 months since the likes of AI. You know, keep looping back around to AI in every sort of topic, really. But actually, it's made phishing emails become much more believable due to the actual structure of an email, right? Because traditionally, Prince of, I don't know, Nigeria was trying to
So
email or tell you you've got £2 million waiting for you if you give them the bank details. Nowadays, it's kind of stepped away from the Prince of Nigeria trying to say you've got something to, a colleague who's sitting, in the finance office saying that they need a payment for something. I don't know, call it a gift card for a competition or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But that email looks like it came from that finance person. So they're asking for you for the details for that sort of information. And that's the really important point, because it's not just random emails coming from random people, which, you can spot a mile off. Yeah. Whereas now, the email addresses look like they're coming from, Sonia from accounts. It looks like their sort of structure of an email, how they type it. It's got their footer on the email, so everything sort of adds up. And especially if you look at it on your mobile phone, you're not going to look at the actual email address if the main email address has been spoofed. You're just going to read the content of that email and think, oh, Sonia needs this to buying these vouchers. Best send it through. So it's about understanding that sort of process really on how to prevent these sorts of attacks from happening. So with us, we have anti-spam solutions, and there's tons of different ones out there. You can get a native one through Microsoft 365, again free of charge. Generally, if you've got their 365 licensing, you've just got to turn it on. But yeah, it's about understanding that whole process, what phishing looks like, how it's evolved. Because, back in the day, the emails were awful, weren't they?
Yeah, you could spot them straight away. Half the time they were spelt wrong as well, so it was really easy to see.
Yeah, it was. And I think it's important, to keep everybody updated in the loop of known trends, really, because it's forever changing. And it's ultimately about keeping people updated and in the loop. Hopefully, these vlogs, podcast vlogs,
you
call them,
whatever they are,
hogs for Holker vlogs.
There you go.
But yeah, I think it's always worthy of note to just talk about things in plain view, really.
Yeah, definitely. And I think education, when it comes to cyber and IT, AI, absolutely everything is massive at the minute. I think we're all thirsty for more and more knowledge, and we all want to understand absolutely everything, which AI I think is accelerating that. Whether or not it's giving you the right information is a different solution, but at the same time we all want to learn more. And I think my attention span is absolutely terrible now since TikTok. Everything for me has to be within 60 seconds.
Yep.
But I think it's slowly going back to how it used to be. People want to meet in person. They actually want to have real conversations. They want to listen to podcasts, especially if you're driving as well. But with the IT world, going back to AI and education, it's learning exactly what it is. And anytime I've been into a business and they'll be like, oh, we really want to use Copilot, we want to use ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever it may be. And then you'll say, no problem, well, where's your data stored? Oh, we've got it on a local server. Well, AI can't see it on a local server. You need to have it in a SharePoint. You need to really think about having your house in order. And again, it goes back to that education piece. We're all looking to jump in feet first, whereas I think actually we really need to think about what we want to do and what we want AI to do. I had a really good conversation with a financial advisory firm who were like, I just want to save 10% of the hours that I spend on projects, and I want Copilot to be able to do it. So it's a really good place to start, where you give it something really specific, but then you need somebody like Holker to come in, teach you how to do it, but more importantly, make sure that your data is secure. AI can actually see it, and it can only see what you want it to see. Because if you go in and you haven't set it up right, Michael could log in and literally go and find your payroll details with Copilot by complete accident, just because your permissions aren't in place. So again, it's that education piece of just making people aware of how to use the tools and what tools are out there, but also the risks that come alongside them as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think people often overlook the risks due to convenience.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
As Copilot in its own right, it is convenient. It saves time by the way it's built. It's built to save time. But again, people need to understand the risks behind that, what it actually looks like for your business. Because, like Tom said, you could simply type in what's the HR manager's what's the HR manager's salary for argument's sake, and if it is populated within your database, it's going to show up to any employee within the business. So it's about understanding the privacy and the security, and making sure it's all wrapped into the same sort of tenant, to understand where your data security is. So, moving on, something slightly different. So, in November, we are hosting a cyber and AI event.
Yeah.
How fitting to this conversation.
It's like it's planned.
Yeah, well, you'd think so. But ultimately, the event is there to educate people, businesses across sort of the Northwest or wherever you are, if you want to attend. It's for IT managers, IT professionals, or anybody really who's interested in AI, cybersecurity. I think a couple of the insights which people are going to get from the event will go on to help their businesses. Certainly around the cybersecurity and the AI piece, because there's going to be workshops with us educating people on how Copilot and the like work, what needs to be done on the back end, and a couple of other bits and pieces. From an IT perspective, Tom, we'll obviously cover the practical side. I know you've alluded to it slightly earlier. But it's just to give people that understanding around what AI can do. So from your experience working with clients and so on, how has AI benefited people?
It starts with productivity. I think that is always where it's the quickest and easiest win, is making people more productive. The biggest challenge I find, and again, it started here as well, I'm in a completely new environment when it comes to SharePoint, so I have not got a clue where anything is saved, because everybody saves things their own different way. Whereas I can just go and type into Copilot, or Steve said, can you go and find the KPIs for next month? I don't know where those KPIs are in SharePoint, but if I ask Copilot that, it's going to go and find it, and it might save me 5, maybe 10 minutes. But if I'm doing that every hour, I've saved an hour of my day, and then I've got an hour to actually be more productive. And I think that's one of the things we'll try and cover a bit more is, it's all well and good saving time with AI, but then what do you actually do with the time that you've saved? Because, you know, if you're a business owner, you don't just want an extra hour a day, you want an extra hour where you can invest it into the business to help it grow. And again, it'll go back to sort of having that house in order, understanding where you as an IT and infrastructure need to be to actually implement something like Copilot. I think one of the biggest things will be the speakers that are there as well. They're going to be able to tell you a lot more about the exact ins and outs of how Copilot can help more than I can anyway. Allegedly.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to be a good day overall. It's the 12th of November.
The 12th of November,
starting at 8 a.m. or arrive from 8 a.m. Have a bacon butty or something similar. Have a brew, a little bit of networking, and then we'll crack on at sort of 8:30, 9 o'clock up until I think it's 11:30. So not taking too much out of your day, but it's there to educate people, help people understand what these things are, how we can benefit your business from talking about them. So it's at Burnley Football Club. The Eventbrite page will be going live later today or tomorrow morning. Again, if you're interested, get in touch with either me or Tom, and we'll come back with some further information around registration details and so on. So moving on then, so that's the event. We've got quite a lot to cover, unfortunately. So let's talk about sort of deeper dives. We'll go to the deep dive segment of this episode. So my elements around cybersecurity, so I'm the cybersecurity solutions manager here at Holker, so I help businesses on a day-to-day basis looking at their sort of cybersecurity posture, what it means for them, how we best mitigate risk for them. And I work with all different types, sizes of business across the UK, across the world even in some cases. But I think understanding cybersecurity is the first sort of point in any sort of journey, because it can mean so many different things to so many different people. And for me and for Holker as a business, it's understanding risk. You've got to manage that risk, and how do we manage risk? Well, there's a number of things we can do between, the first engagement up until, we're in deep conversations, but we'll come into sort of any business. Look at what you do. If you're a financial business, you hold important, sensitive information.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants that information? Who would benefit from gaining access to that information? Well, generally, cyber attackers will always try and steal sensitive information. They're not just going to go on and ransomware or bakers, because they don't really use IT as such.
Don't know really much data unless you really want the recipe, maybe.
Yeah, well, KFC's recipe is still under lock and key, so that's yet to be discovered.
That's true.
But I think that the sort of key risk in any business across the entire world, and I'd put this at the number one, is their people. Because they are your first and last line of defence in any organisation, period.
Yeah, 100%.
If your people aren't skilled, educated, or have a decent understanding of your IT security, then, you know, if they could just willy-nilly go and click links, download random programs on their company-owned devices, give their credentials away, and to them, if they're uneducated, it doesn't really mean anything, and they're unaware of any sort of damage that it could cause. Yeah. So I think the first sort of issue it is around people and educating people, you know, because you don't know what you don't know in a lot of cases, especially around people. Yeah. And it's not necessarily just around, you know, making sure people know it. It's good for them and their own personal life as well, because it's not just in business people want to steal information from. It's from their own personal accounts. You know, we've had an example with one of our accounts team upstairs. Their email got compromised and they stole logged into their Amazon account and started receiving random packages to their house. You know, and they already received all sorts of weird, wonderful things. One of them included a neck brace, bizarrely. But it just goes to show, you know, I think making that education piece in a foundation for any business is important. Yeah. Because I keep harping on about it, but they are literally your first and last line of defence. And then aside from that, it's around looking at your sort of risk, sort of register within the business. You know, how far is security on that risk register? Is it at the bottom? Is it in the middle? Is it at the top? Is it actively spoken about at board level? Yeah. You'd be surprised in many businesses, you know, they say they're aware of cyber security and what they need to do, but actually they don't invest the time, not necessarily the money, the time into understanding what it means for them and their business, because all it takes is one thing that can bring a business down to its knees and potentially not come back. Yeah, literally. One little thing, I think, you know, making people understand that, and I get in the back of people's minds, they know that, but you only can educate so much before they act on that. So I think it's important, again, to just talk about it openly. You know, we're here to educate you guys on these types of things. And for me, as the security lead at Holker, it'd be really good to have these conversations with people in depth, you know, at a board level, because it's that understanding which people are missing. And once you get that, you know, it could be an hour's worth of a conversation and you're there. You know, it's not a lot of time in the grand scheme of things. For example, if you did get hit, what would that cost your business? If you're offline for, you know, a week, 2 weeks, a month, you know, are you coming back from that? It's hard to tell. Yeah, it's hard to tell. So Tom, do you want to crack over to your sort of IT issues, what we're seeing?
Yeah, I think, again, I'll keep going back to it and it'll probably sound like we're banging the same drum a little bit, but it is that education of people. And that doesn't necessarily mean straight through to the end user. It's normally at board level. So one of the biggest challenges that I have as I'll start talking to a local business, try and promote what we do, how we help people, and the first thing they'll say is, oh, it's fine, our IT's fine, it just works, don't worry about it, not a problem. And everybody says the same thing, it's normally, it just works, it's just fine. And it's only when you start asking proper questions where they realise actually maybe their IT isn't fine and they need to look at it in a different light. So usually one of the things we'll talk around is, when's the last time your IT provider sat down with you and gone through where you're overspending? Because if anybody like me, you probably have it the same, every now and again I'll just go through my bank statement and I'll be like, I've got a Netflix subscription, a Disney subscription, a subscription to Audible. I noticed the other day I've not listened to an Audible since forever, I don't think. And it's the same inside a business. People keep buying licenses and somebody at their IT provider should be going, look, you've got Teams, you've got Slack, you've got Trello, they're all doing the same thing, just slightly differently. Why are we spending so much money on these licenses? Yeah, if you're a business that's only sort of 4 or 5 people, it might not seem a lot, but if you've got 100 people and you're paying for 300 licenses that do exactly the same thing, your IT provider should be stepping in to say, hang on a minute, they're all doing more or less the same thing. Let's cut it back and let's reinvest that money, not necessarily in IT, could be in cyber, could be anywhere else in the business and training. I think that's one of the biggest things when we go back to strategy and board meetings, is that's where IT should have a voice. And I think sometimes it's really difficult when we speak to new businesses and they've got an IT manager. The IT manager is normally like, well, I don't want an IT provider coming in here because that's my job at risk.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily the reason we're going in there. Sometimes it'll be, it's one IT manager, what happens when they're on holiday, who picks that stuff up. Some IT managers want to do the day-to-day, they want to be boots on the ground, they want to be plugging in the cables, fixing stuff, whereas some IT managers want to be doing the sexy stuff, implementing AI, looking at strategy, and that's where we can fit in as well. So we can come in, if you only want to do the day-to-day stuff, then use the guys at Holker. There's a team of guys upstairs that are really good and understand it, Paul especially, where we can come in and talk around the strategy of what does the next 5 years look like. It's no good looking at it in short chunks. It's all around where are you as a business, where are you trying to get to, how can we use IT and technology to take you on that journey, save you money in the long term, but help you do it quicker. And then on the flip side of that, if it is somebody that wants to do the strategy, we can come in and we can be the boots on the ground effectively and just do the day-to-day nuts and bolts, pick up all the easy quick wins and fixes, and let you then have the time to focus on where do I want this IT strategy to go, what do I want it to look like. And I'd say the biggest risk with IT is just not understanding what your IT does. I think we take it for granted quite a lot. Again, there's a lot of a new sector for me in education, which Holker are really good at, but there's lots of schemes going on at the minute, like Connect the Classroom, where schools can get selected to fund into their wireless and their Wi-Fi systems. There's loads of different advantages that are out there in different sectors, and I think there's not enough noise around it, and I think there needs to be an education there as well, where people understand where they can get access to funding, but also understand how spending money within their IT and infrastructure will save them money in the long run. Because as Michael said, if it's a ransomware that locks you out and you can't get into your systems, it's a nightmare. But in the same breath, if your IT just randomly dies for 4 hours, it costs your business money. So you've got to have an infrastructure in place to make sure that it's safe and up and running, but then you need someone to come in and do the cyber to make sure that nobody on the outside is going to turn it off as well.
Yeah, totally agree, Tom. You know, the two definitely work hand in hand.
Yeah.
They do complement each other. Believe it or not, actually, we as a business we always try and tell our customers to go elsewhere for the likes of penetration testing and stuff like that, purely down to the fact of we don't want to mark our own homework, because we're very close to the clients we work with from a technology standpoint and a relationship standpoint, but actually we're very close to it, so it kind of puts a guard up in front of us where we can potentially miss things, and if we miss something, it's never going to be something, it's never going to be good. We don't want to miss anything. So we always advise people, if we're working with them on a security level, anything to do with audits, penetration testing, anything of the like, to go elsewhere to get that third party independent view. And then obviously if we do miss something, we have that open conversation and I'll hold our hands up to it. We're only human. But equally, we do follow best practice. So naturally, there isn't much that can go wrong. On the off chance, it's always best practice to stipulate, go elsewhere for that audit, that view, and see what comes back. But going to the section of sort of quick wins, quick tips, from me, I think password hygiene or password policies need a little bit more TLC. I work with businesses and look at their password policies, and they haven't been updated in 10 years. Again, it's little things like this. Even if you're trying to figure out a password, what password can you think of on the dot? Well, it's quite hard to think of a password you're going to remember without writing it down, right? So a piece of advice I was once given was, you're in a room, look around the room, what 3 things can you see? Can you see a colour? Well, I can see green. I can see a table. I can see a cup. So green table cup, and can you see any sort of markings on the wall, windows, any numbers anywhere? So if you can see any numbers on the wall, for example, I mean we don't have any numbers in this room, but for argument's sake, let's say we had the number 26. 26. So that, you know, you've got a green table cup, 26. These characters are all very random, but again, you can mix that up a little bit in terms of capital letters, put in exclamation marks and other bits and pieces of punctuation in there, just to keep that password random. Because if you're using the same password for everything and the attacker manages to get through to your account on one thing, think about your personal information, your company information, that's all going to be visible to whomever's got access to your account details. And yeah, password hygiene is one of my pet peeves, because it's just such a simple thing, but it just gets left to kind of fester.
Yeah. And I think it's one of them, again, we're only human. I probably fall foul of this in personal life as well with password hygiene, where I can probably tell you right now that I can think of 3 different logins that have got the same password, which we would never recommend to a business. But again, it's just getting round. I think we've all had that password 123, or you know, you chuck your kid's name in there and their date of birth or whatever, and it's always been the case for so long. Whereas I think again it goes back to education of, it's so easy now. One of my favourite things if I ever talk cyber to anybody is, you know, go on, have I been pwned, and you type your email address in, and then it's only then when you actually look at it and you realise, oh crap, there's actually a lot of data that I've leaked just because for some reason I've put my dog's name as my password 123, and it's really easy for someone to go on Facebook and guess that. And there's tools out there that do it as well anyway now, where they can reinforce their way in. But yeah, I think password hygiene is massive, and the tip I would give anybody looking at their IT, it's probably a hygiene piece as well, but more around just general data. Accountants and law firms are a pain in the ass for it, but it's keeping too much data that they don't need. Legally, yes, you might have to keep it for 7 years, but there was an accountant that we went to in London and took us into the basement, and it was a big basement just full of years and years worth of just paper documents that they're never ever going to need. One, you know, paper documents aren't safe. It could be a leak in a basement in London, fire, but someone could break in there as well and just get hold of it. But it's like, well, do you need this data? And they're like, yeah, we need to put it online into SharePoint. And you're like, do you really need to put it online? And then you talk around the cost of digitising it, uploading it, storing it, and all of a sudden you have this sort of thing, we really don't need this. Then why have you got it in your basement? If you don't need that data, clean it, keep your house tidy. It's so easier said than done, but it needs to be done as well, because if you want to grow as a business and you want your IT to stay stable and grow with you, look after your data. And I think as we move more into a world where cyber is just getting bigger and bigger in terms of risk, and AI is becoming more and more of a utility as opposed to just an add-on that you want, data is going to be massive. So keep it tidy. We can come in and we can talk around how your data should look and where you need to keep it as a backup, or where you just get rid of it, you don't need it anymore. But that would be my tip as well, is data hygiene.
Yeah. I think just to round up, today's episode is very much just been an introduction to us, the business, what we can do for you as a wraparound really. Albeit we haven't really spoke about all of our services, but we'll do that in future episodes. But yeah, I encourage everybody who manages to watch this video to sign up to the event over in November.
Definitely.
You know, it's a couple of months down the road, but make sure your calendar's clear for that one, because it's going to be really good. And I do believe you'll get a lot of insight and knowledge from that event. But yeah, again, if you could drop us a follow on LinkedIn, any of the social platforms you see us on, you know, we greatly appreciate it. It enables us to spread the word a little bit more around IT strategy, what people need to look out for, and the likes of that sort of stuff. Also, if there's anything you want to see on the next episode, we're always up for comments,
definitely,
options for future conversations and so on.
Even if people just submit, I've got this challenge with cyber or my IT or AI or printers or whatever it might be, pop it on there, we can maybe try and solve it.
Yeah,
maybe we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, so thanks for joining us today. It's been really good to chat with Tom, and we'll try and do these on a weekly basis to keep the consistency up with the audience, really.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, thank you for watching, if you've watched till the end.
If you're still here.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Ciao. See you soon. Bye.